I'm Rob Licuria, Senior Editor at Gold Derby. I'm here with really just some of the best to talk about one of the most exciting mornings of the year, and that's the Oscar nominations. I'm here with Matt Noble, Tom O'Brien, Tony Ruiz, and Charlie Bright. And not much diversity here, I know that, but there's a lot of diversity that we get to talk about, which is always exciting for us, Bleeding Heart.
I'm Jewish.
Okay, fair enough. So guys, I just think there's so much to celebrate this morning from the nominations, and there's a little bit to gripe about too. And you know, we have to gripe, we can't. So let's actually start with what we really loved. Like maybe that one thing that just really filled your heart with joy this morning. I'm going to go to you first, Tom.
Well, one thing that really filled my heart with joy was no Jared Leto.
You know, really? Because I was hoping that he'd get in.
You do. What I think I like most about it, as opposed to last year where there were 4 films in double digits, there's only one, and just barely. The wealth was really spread around nicely, and that was really great to see.
Yeah, you're right. It's, I've been umming and ahhing for months about how much Mank was going to get this year, and ended up getting 10 nominations, which is really quite impressive. But then, as you say, then a whole bunch of films got 6, and then a couple got 5. Really unusual. So yes, I agree. That's really interesting. But I was disappointed with Jared Leto. I'm sure he would have loved another nomination, and I thought he was really good in the little things. But anyway, it is what it is. Tony.
Yeah.
My somersaults were over Judas and the Black Messiah, especially the Academy basically doing a reverse Kate Winslet. I stole that from somebody on Twitter, and putting Lakeith Stanfield in supporting. Judas and the Black Messiah was my #1 movie of the year. I adore that film, and I think Lakeith Stanfield, Daniel Kaluuya is, obviously, and I think even still after today, the front runner to win. But the fact that they put Lakeith in supporting, does he belong in supporting? I'm not sure, but that's for the Academy voters to decide. They'll put you, whichever category you get the most votes in, that's where you go. And that just made me just so happy, because I just think that film is astonishing.
I know, right? I mean, I've got a bit of a history with that movie, as Tony well knows, but after seeing it 3 times, I'm now totally on the Judas and the Black Messiah train. It's like my 3rd favourite film of 2020. I'm happy that it got 6 nominations. I was hoping Shaka King would get into director as well, but that's okay, because he got into writing with his team. Lakeith Stanfield making it in was so surprising. Like, don't you love how the Oscars can get really stealthy with their nominations sometimes? Like, who saw that coming? There was no talk about it, no chatter. How on earth did it happen that enough people said, no, we need to nominate this guy because he is such a big, important part of why this film is so good? So Tony, were you literally just flipping out? Because I was just like, look, hey, how did this happen?
Here's the funny thing. I slept through the nominations this morning, and so I woke up to your guys's text thread, and all of a sudden I kept seeing Lakeith in capital letters, and I thought, oh my god, Lakeith got into Best Actor. So I immediately went out and I turned on the TV and I watched the nominations, and he was in supporting, and I was like, so I basically got wow twice from that. So
wow, a double whammy. So you're welcome. Charlie, what about you? What filled your heart with, your big heart with joy?
What little there is of my heart, and that's a testament to both heart disease and just being a terrible person. I would say that I mean it's no. Marcus even gave me a personal shout out in the slugfest this morning, saying that he could hear me screaming from the opposite coast of America that Maria Bakalova got in. And I know you and me, you and me, Rob, have been commanding this train since October. Even before she was at our prediction center, we were like, holy crap, she was amazing in this. And it's so wonderful to see this kind of performance, and to see the actors recognize her and recognize her talent and what she brought to that performance, that she was able to not only match Sacha Baron Cohen in all that he did, but rise above it and bring such an amazing heart to that movie, to a movie that most people wouldn't think a heart in it would be anywhere near that. So that's my, and the fact that it was the first one out, I was so nervous going into that. When I saw supporting actress was the first one, I was like, oh God, we're starting with this one. Oh God, what's it going to be? But that was, I'd say I also loved The Love for the Father. That movie wrecked me. I knew it was going to wreck me. I was crying so hard at the end that I couldn't breathe through my nose for 30 minutes after the movie was over. I was very pleasantly surprised that it got in where it did, not just picture and actor and supporting actress, but, getting into production design and editing, which were so, it feels like those, especially like the production design nomination last year for Parasite, because it was so integral to that, and it showed that they were really, they really appreciated the really minute details that they put into that, and they did the same with The Father. And one other one I will mention, I know we'll get to some other ones later, but one other one I want to mention off the top is Shaun the Sheep movie, Farmageddon, getting into animated. I was so happy about that.
I was very happy about that.
I had taken out, it was weird. The one that I had taken out was Onward. I thought Onward might get left out. And then when it was the first one announced, I was like, wait, what does that mean? That's really late to be the first nominee, to be in the O's. But then I realized it was the Croods, which bummed me out a little bit. But still, I mean, I loved a Shaun the Sheep movie, Farmageddon. I am a huge fan of Aardman. They are some of the best people in animation and filmmaking overall, I think. So I was so happy to see them back in there with this. And it's a delightful movie if you haven't seen it. So go see it, first of all. You need to, because it's just amazing.
Yeah, even though you're a terrible person, but I'll take that on board. Like when I saw the Shaun the Sheep nomination, I didn't think of you, but I also, Maria Bakalova was the first person announced this morning. And I will give you complete credit, Charlie, that you were the person to say to me, hey, this is going to happen. And I was like, oh my God, I hope so, but I don't know.
Well, I didn't say it would happen. I said there was a path. And sure enough, that path has panned out.
Yeah, I was just like, I was a little skeptical because could something so brilliant and amazing actually happen in this day and age? Doubtful. And it did, because people are paying attention. She is divine in that movie, and I honestly am going to predict her to win. But that's a whole other story. We're not going to talk about it today. But I was so delighted. And the only thing that kind of made it annoying was the fact that Priyanka Chopra Jonas had to read a whole damn name.
Oh, I love that. I loved that. That was great.
So yeah, that was cool. I knew that you'd be excited. So Matt, last but not least, what made you happiest this morning?
Look, probably my most passionate takes are more negative than positive. However, that's partly because the nominations I'm most pleased with are nominations that were expected, and that when I actually look at the films that are sort of in leading nomination totals, like The Trial of Chicago 7 and Mank, which got 10, and Nomadland and Promising Young Woman and Minari. These are all films that I thought were great, and I'd love to see those films win Oscars, and some of those films will definitely be winning Oscars. So I just think there's not as many films this year that I'm upset about being in the conversation and being in the mix. Like most of those films I just mentioned, I'd be fine with winning Best Picture, or happy with winning Best Picture and other things. Yeah. So I'm pretty pleased with how the nominations have been shared around this year.
Yeah, I think that's probably a good point, actually, because a lot of it panned out this morning as we kind of expected it would. There was a few outliers and a couple of surprises, and a few people missed out, which we're going to talk about now. But right, we expected Nomadland to do well. We expected Promising Young Woman and Trial of Chicago 7 and Mank and all those films to do really well. I was actually thinking about you because when Aaron Sorkin missed out, there was a lot of talk about that over the last few days. And in fact, I kind of bought that as well and took him out. I put in Florian Zeller as a No Guts, No Glory. That didn't happen. I'm just wondering if you have a theory as to why Sorkin was on the bubble and ultimately didn't make it in.
Yeah, I do, and it's I thought about this. This was the big argument I think against Aaron Sorkin all the way along. It's not how the trial of the Chicago 7 was directed. I know there's been different opinions about, was the directing as good as the writing and all that sort of stuff. He is known as a writer. He comes from the writers' branch, and it's directors that vote for the directors' branch. We see this often. Actors can win Best Director when it's opened up to the whole Academy membership, but they can find it harder to get into that nomination spot. I think it's very similar to actually Ben Affleck with Argo when he didn't get nominated in that category. I think Regina King would have had an uphill battle getting in. Now, obviously, her film didn't make Best Picture, so I don't think she was really as in the mix as much because for whatever reason, the Academy didn't respond as well to that film as the trial of Chicago 7. But I just think when you're not known for being a director or that you got your start in directing, it's harder to break into that category. And I think Aaron Sorkin had to couldn't overcome that bias.
Yeah, I think that's actually spot on because I was trying to draw parallels to Peter Farrell in Green Book because Trial of Chicago 7 appears to have kind of a similar trajectory to Green Book, which is why we counted out as a Best Picture winner ultimately, particularly with preferential ballot. But I was also thinking that when I think about Aaron Sorkin, I really do think of him as a writer and not as a director. And I'm sure that very insular branch of the Academy who love auteurs and really amazing big name directors would have probably thumbed their nose a little at him, which is why we saw Thomas Vinterberg. They love going for that foreign language film contender like Pavel Pavlikovsky a couple of years ago for Cold War. So yeah, I think it's a really good point, Matt. I think you're right. So while we've got you, Matt, let's talk about things that you were disappointed about. Was there something that was the most gut punch of all?
I think sort of like a double hit, a double whammy. Firstly, the Academy has no soul. Soul missing out on Best Picture. I actually think like Pete Docter should have been in the conversation for Best Director. Someone with his track record of films that are critical hits and box office smashes. If that was a live action director with Pete Docter's resume, they would have been in the discussion for Best Director. They weren't even talked about for Best Director. Should have at least got a Best Picture nomination. Should have got a Best Screenplay nomination. I think Soul will win a couple of Oscars on Oscar night, I think, hopefully. But it's missing out on the Best Picture race, I think, just shows a bias against animation in the Academy ranks. And it's what an animated film needs to do to break into Best Picture is greater than what a live action film needs to do to break into Best Picture. And my other big gripe is, aside from Maria Bakalova, in a year where there was some lovely, lovely comedy films from On the Rocks to Palm Springs, of 20 acting nominees, we have one comedic performance nominated. Bill Murray got snubbed. This would have been a great year back in. His only other Oscar nomination was for a Sofia Coppola film. And just like other comedic actors that weren't really even in the conversation. This has not been a great year for comedic actors on the awards circuit in general, to be honest. And I think that's a shame because I think there were some really great comedy films this year.
Isn't the saying "dying is easy, comedy is hard" or something like that? Like,
yeah,
surely, what? I mean, yeah, they don't get enough respect. Like, I even thought The King of Staten Island was one of the best films of 2020, and that's just been nowhere. I thought, it's a real shame that comedy.
Personal History of David Copperfield.
Yeah,
lovely technical, lovely behind the scenes stuff there. Clever, sharp comedic script, but no.
Yeah, to your point, Rob, I think that Bill Burr in The King of Staten Island really should have been in the conversation. It was funny, but it's a very touching performance too.
Or Pete Davidson, I thought should have been more of a contender for Best Actor because I thought I did not have high expectations for it, but I went with an open mind, and I thought he delivered an amazing performance.
Yeah,
And by the way, Matt, I believe it's pronounced Saul. We're going to get a lot of traction out of that joke. Okay? We're going to get a lot of traction out of that.
Yeah, it's still good though. It still works. There's been a lot of talk about Ma Rainey's Black Bottom and One Night in Miami missing in Best Picture. I think that if we had the 10, which we're going to have next year, it probably would have made it in. I feel bad for One Night in Miami. They have really worked very hard this season to get that film out there, and it just came up short a little, unfortunately, for Regina King's feature directorial debut, which is a shame. Ma Rainey, 6 nominations, and was it 6 or 5? I think 6.
Six.
Yeah, so it would have made 7 had it got the Best Picture nomination. I don't buy any of the narrative that it's because they're both primarily black casts that just didn't make it in, because I think diversity shouldn't necessarily be the number one talking point this year, apart from it being a positive. That's my view. I just think there's so much to celebrate this year in terms of ethnic diversity. Perhaps these Latinx contenders sometimes, that would be good. We don't see any of that ever, unfortunately. And I must say as well, there are no Australians, so that's a joke. I just think, it's a shame that they didn't make it in. So I think that's what I was slightly disappointed about. I was also disappointed that Florian Zeller didn't make it in. The father really overperformed today, and I think a lot of it had to do with his direction. And so there's other things that I can think of, but I'll just let you guys talk now. So how about we go to you next, Tony?
I'm going to go a little farther out. There were really 2 that bothered me. I still think that, as much of a disaster overall as a category in terms of predictions as supporting actress has been all season, I really wish Ellen Burstyn had gotten in for Pieces of a Woman. It might be the one scene, I think anybody who's seen that movie knows what scene I'm talking about. She has this long monologue in the middle that is just searing and unreal. So there was that one. In the documentary category, Welcome to Chechnya is one of the most just gut-wrenching and yet strangely beautiful films I've seen in a long time. And, I was actually hoping that it might have gotten into visual effects, but it didn't make it there either. But God, if you have not seen that movie, you might want to take a Valium first, because it's going to upset you. It's going to give you all the feelings. But I just think it's beautiful. I was really, and it's hard to complain about any of the other documentaries that are in there. I think Crip Camp is one of my favorite docs of the year. But I just really wish Welcome to Chechnya had been in there.
Yeah,
it's interesting you brought up that visual effects thing, because I thought, well, first of all, I had read from some people who had seen the presentation that they had made, because that's what they do with visual effects. Each person that makes the short list delivers a presentation, and the one that I heard that they gave was very well received. And also, you think if it was able to make that hurdle into the short list, that it would be a very likely nominee, like we saw with, I think, The One and Only Ivan is that what it's called?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I mean, I really am with you on that. I really thought that it was going to get into visual effects.
Yeah, I really did too. And I only saw that over the weekend, and I was texting Tony and just saying, this movie is astounding. And when it didn't make it into documentary, I don't think Boys State made it either, which really upset me, because that's my favorite documentary of 2020 by far. But Welcome to Chechnya, I thought, okay, well, it'll make it into visual effects, and it'll get something. And it didn't make it there either. I felt really, really disappointed about that too. So that's a really good call on that one. What about you, have we asked you yet, Charlie, what you're pissed off about?
You should always just come back around it, because there's bound to be something more. I mean, for me, it's one that I was kind of prepared for, but still, the snubbing of Delroy Lindo continues to just baffle me. I mean, not getting in anywhere except for Critics' Choice. It really just makes no sense. Now, I will say, I look at the Best Actor lineup, and I think that's one of the best lineups we've had in years. I think the last time we had a lineup that was this consistent in quality was 2013. I think we had one of the Best Actor lineups in recent memory. But still, what Delroy Lindo does in Five Bloods is amazing. And for someone who has been around for so long and has a lot of goodwill, not just from his film acting, but also his television acting and his work in theater as well. I really, really thought that he would do much better throughout this whole season. I can take some solace in the fact that he has collected some serious accolades, including wins from New York Film Critics and the National Society of Film Critics. So I can at least hold on to that.
Can I just jump in there, Charlie, for 1 second?
Yeah, go ahead.
I want to stick with Defy Bloods because I'd like you to see if you can help us understand what the hell happened there. Because, okay, Terence Blanchard got in, which was a really nice little surprise. I wasn't completely expecting that. But Delroy Lindo, when Defy Bloods was premiered on Netflix, most of us were saying, I mean, he's in. He was just fucking amazing, and it didn't happen. And the whole film kind of just flopped. Why? What? It's inexplicable to me.
I think there's a lot of factors here with, and unfortunately, one theory that I've been seeing on Twitter, and it kind of makes sense about race, is that it's not the fact that it was a black, it's the fact that it's a black film with, oh yes, thank you. I have a wench bringing my fried cheese curds.
Priorities.
So no, it's the fact that usually a lot of times it seems like there's a mindset when the nominations come through that there's like that the voting body thinks like there's only room for one black movie, and so this year it seems like, because we saw Ma Rainey miss out, One Night Miami, Defy Bloods, but Judas and the Black Messiah is the one that really made it through to the overall category. So I think that's one thing. I think the other thing is and this was something I was worried about from when it premiered. Netflix had a lot this year. Netflix had so much this year, and it really felt like they had always had their money really on Mank and Chicago 7, and Defy Bloods was kind of more or less an afterthought. And it seems like they really put their eggs in those first two baskets, and it paid off for them. But there's always the thought of what could have been.
Yeah, I think that's spot on, because I was trying to think, like, what did Spike Lee do wrong? They gave Black Klansman a little bit of love, and they thought, okay, we're done. But I think what you're saying makes more sense, actually.
Yeah.
And oh no, go ahead, Tony. Go ahead, Tom. I'm sorry.
Acting on your point, Charlie, I think that Defy Bloods was not going to drive new subscribers to Netflix the way Chicago 7 and Mank might. And I think that's why perhaps the campaign for that might be a little bit lesser than those two.
Maybe, yeah.
And I'll also just say, if I could just like two other things that that really grind my gears. First is, I actually really liked The Croods: A New Age. I really thought that was an adorable little movie, and I was not expecting to. I really went in with practically no expectations, but it's just delightful. And I really was a little disappointed that did not make it into animated feature. And I will say, in animated short, and I always say the most nerdy for the last, the short film The Snail and the Whale was so gorgeous. It's made by Max Lang, who did two other animated short nominees, previous ones, The Gruffalo and Room on the Broom. Room on the Broom is so gorgeous and so beautiful, and Snail and the Whale is just as gorgeous. It's beautiful, it's funny, it's just everything you would want in a 30-minute animated short, and it really bummed me out that did not get into animated short.
Okay, that's interesting. Tom, what about you?
I think the thing that disappointed me the most was that there weren't any international films from Latin America. They had a couple of really good ones in I'm No Longer Here and La Riona, and just had hoped that, because yes, there's Roma, and there are the Three Amigos stuff is in another class, but just real everyday great filmmaking is coming out of Latin America, and I kind of hope that they would have recognized that a little bit more.
Well, speaking of, everyone knows that I was obsessed with La Llorona, and I thought Guatemala would finally get in for its first ever. I was very disappointed, but I think they can still, Jairo Bustamante, the director, should still be very proud of all the accolades that he has accumulated. But speaking of first-timers, I was probably my number one excitement, apart from Maria Bakalova, was The Man Who Sold His Skin, which is Kotha Ben Hania's film from Tunisia. That is the 13th, I think, time Tunisia has submitted. It's the first time it's ever been nominated. She's the first time, so she's the first person to represent that Muslim North African nation. She's a Muslim woman. That's incredible. When we think about diversity, we're talking about like all the Black nominees, the Asian nominees. In international feature, we've got 2 women directors that I know of. I'm not sure who directed Better Days. I'm dying to watch it now because I haven't seen that one yet. We've got women in screenplay. You know what it reminds me of? When Dances with Wolves won Best Film and Kevin Costner won Best Director a long time ago, that was dubbed by the Academy as the Year of the Woman. And I remember Barbara Streisand, I think it was, coming out, I think it was that year, and she said something like,
No, it was that was 92 was the Year of the Woman. That was the year. It was the year of Unforgiven.
yes, sorry, you're right. And I knew it was at Western because I think Kathy Bates won, right, that year? And,
No, that was Emma Thompson.
oh, yes, of course. Thank you, historian, Tony. But Barbara Streisand said something. I have too much other crap in there. She said, hopefully we will never have to have another Year of the Woman again because it's such a ridiculous conversation topic. And we're talking about it in 2021, 30 years later. But this is not the Year of the Woman, but it kind of is because we're seeing so many wonderful female filmmakers killing it and hopefully will win and hopefully winning it. Because in international feature, we all have a good feeling that another round will probably win that. But in any other year, Tunisia or Bosnia and Herzegovina could actually win a prize at the Oscars. It really fills my heart with so much joy. So that was what I was thrilled about that. I haven't seen Better Days yet, but the other films in that category are so good. And there were so many that missed out that were so good, like A Son from Taiwan. And La Llorona from Guatemala, and Charlatan from the Czech Republic, like really good quality international features this year. Another thing quickly that I'll mention is I love it when we see international films break out in other categories, like in Best Director, like in Best Song with The Life Ahead, which Italy, you should have probably submitted that. And Pinocchio got 2 nominations, especially the costume design, completely out of the blue for me. Love that. Wish we could see more. I really do. So, I mean, we could just be here, but I'll let you guys.
Kind of disappointed that we couldn't find another place for Chloe Zhao to get nominated.
Yes.
Yeah. 4 nominations. I mean, that's incredible. What?
Should have wrote a song or something.
Yeah, she should have written a song for the film.
Don't tempt her. She probably would do it.
Yeah, true. You know, I noticed. So just quickly, I noticed that Tenet didn't make it into sound, and I'm kind of glad. I thought. Technically speaking, Tenet was wonderful achievement, and I love the music, which didn't get nominated either. Visual effects were brilliant because they were so practical, but the sound in that film really irked me and really ruined my experience of that film. So I'm kind of glad that it didn't make it in. What were you going to say?
Piggybacking off of international films popping up in other places, one of the other things that I actually was very pleasantly surprised about was Collective, doing that Honeyland did last year and landing in both documentary and an international feature. I actually just watched it a week ago, and dear God, I mean it's good, but dear God, that is an intense movie.
Really?
And, but it is a great movie, and I love that it got in not only in international feature, but also did it in documentary. I thought it was great.
That's cool, hey. And The Mole Agent, the Chilean international feature submission, made it in documentary too. So the Academy is getting more international, and I just think the more the better, because that really excites me. Diversity is not just about Black and Latinx and Asian. It's also about other countries and other nationalities and other perspectives from other parts of the world. And so that we can make the Oscars the true international pinnacle of filmmaking excellence and accolade. That's how I see it. What about you guys, Tony, Tom, anything else that you want to raise before we go?
Well, I'm just glad my prediction that Tenet would tie Pinocchio as far as the number of nominations.
Oh gosh. Yeah, I haven't seen that yet. I really want to see Pinocchio now. I was not really that interested in seeing an Italian film about the Pinocchio legend, but I'm gonna watch it. What else? What about you, Tony? Oh, by the way, I was happy about Milan. Milan made it into a couple, which it really deserved. It should get into a couple more, but that's okay. So that's going to make my kids super happy, and and that always makes me happy. What about anything else, Tony?
I'm really happy about that this year really is the coronation of Chloe Zhao. I've been a fan of hers for so long, and the writer is, as everybody knows, is probably one of my top 10 of the decade. I guess last decade now. How time flies.
What is
but
time?
to see her do what she, because Nomadland is not a very different film tonally, in terms of structure, in terms of what she does as a director. It's not that different from what she's done before. So to see her get the recognition for doing what she does, which I think is really kind of, it's just so gratifying to see a director who you've admired break out in a really, really big way without losing any of that part of their filmmaking identity in order to do it. I mean, that she has sacrificed nothing in terms of her vision, and everybody's finally starting to see it.
Yeah, everyone's starting to catch up. I think that's a really, really good point to probably end on that. Before we, and also I must say I breathed a sigh of relief when Paul Raci made it in. Thank God.
Yes.
I just don't think these awards would have had any credibility had not we've seen Sound of Metal doing so well, but not Paul Raci, which to me was the heart and soul of that film. So before we go, let's just all say very briefly, like literally, quick tell me what's going to win Best Picture, and then you might change it later, but just as of now, I'm saying Nomadland has this in the bag. She's going to win director, she's going to win her screenplay prize, she's probably going to win maybe even editing. I think she's going to win all four, just like we've seen other auteurs do in the past. Tom?
I always resist in the bag, but this is as close to in the bag as I could comfortably say Nomadland.
Tony?
Yeah, I think Nomadland's out front, but don't sleep on Minari.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And yeah, Alex?
It's actually going to be none of them, and in a write-in vote, the Snyder Cut is going to win Best Picture. No, I'm with you guys. I think Nomadland is very much out front for this. But I will say I don't completely buy into the Chloe Zhao for adapted screenplay. I think The Father is a real contender in that race.
Would be wonderful.
What a wonderful movie. There were so many other movies that came in 2020 that I thought were wonderful. I will fight anyone who says 2020 was a bad year for film. I thought it was brilliant. I thought it gave us so much sustenance and happiness over such a difficult year. And so many of those films are so close to my heart. This Oscar season is one of my most favorite ever. I'm really following it closely because I care about it. And so there's so many films that came out that weren't even recognized, and I won't even name them now. We'll do that another time. But everybody else, go out and watch some of these films. A lot of my friends and family have said, I haven't seen any of these films. I don't even know what you're talking about. Well, go and have a look at them. See if you can seek them out. A lot of them on Netflix or Amazon or Hulu or whatever you want. Watch them because they're really, really good. And I think that's what we need more of. We need to appreciate art because there's so much crap going on around us, at least. Guys, it's been an absolute pleasure having you join me today. Hopefully we'll do more of these. Everybody else, stick with Gold Derby. You know that there's no better place than Gold Derby for awards coverage, and we'll see you very soon. And everybody else, just have a great day.